Turn the volume up. All right. This is a little bit later than I intended because I fell asleep. So I apologize for that. I was actually kind of frustrated because I had purposely gone to sleep earlier last night at like a little bit past 12 and then woke up at 7. Did some other stuff and I felt really tired. Like it was about 11 when I was just like, oh man, I gotta lay down. This can't be that long, or maybe if I just rest momentarily, this won't be as bad. But it turned out to go a little bit further, or go much further than I thought it would. So that's why we're doing it at this point. So with Elliot, the war of words with Iran continued Monday when Foreign Minister Mohammed Javad Zarif warned that the United States cannot expect to stay safe after starting what he called an economic war with Iran. According to Zarif, Mr. Trump himself has announced that the U.S. has launched an economic war against Iran. The only solution for reducing tensions in this region is stopping the economic war. Whoever starts a war with us will not be the one who finishes it, he said during a joint news conference in Tehran, Iran. I have to remember that's the capital, with Heiko Maas, Germany's foreign minister. Zarif's comments come amid escalating tensions between his country and the United States. At the end of May, President Trump said war between the United States and Iran would be the official end of Iran, to which Zarif responded on Twitter. Noted by B Team, Trump hopes to achieve what Alexander Genghis and other aggressors failed to do. Iranians have stood tall for millennia while aggressors all gone. So he's basically saying you can come at us, but it's not gonna turn out the way you plan. Uh, B Team refers to National Security Advisor John Bolton. I'm sorry, or who should be referred to as National Security Warmonger, because he wants wars with Iran, with North Korea, with Venezuela. He wants to basically, and I've mentioned this before, the 7 wars that we're in. He wants to take those and keep them going, and then have boost the number up to 10. Like I think he actually wants to have the most conflicts out of anyone. I'll answer that in a moment, Elliot. Let me read the rest of this. It's not that much more. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which, by the way, Elliot, if you don't know this, the U.S. government basically has 2 governments. It follows hook, line, and sinker no matter what. And that's Israel and Saudi Arabia. And anytime you say this policy by the Israeli government sucks, or this person running the Israeli government sucks, people say you're anti-Semitic. So that's why you had that congresswoman from Minnesota, Omar, get thrashed over telling the truth, which is that government is terrible. All right, and the other person is Saudi Arabia's de facto leader, Mohammed bin Salman. So our B team, and I mean, I've kind of made it no secret that I have a lot of sympathy for Iran in this particular circumstance, because they signed they're part of the Iran nuclear deal, and so was the U.S. And it was like the only thing Obama ever did that I actually liked. Maybe one of maybe 2 or 3 things his whole tenure that I actually thought was really good. And we pulled out of it really early into I think midway through last year, and since then all the countries that were in there before are still in it. So we look like the crazy people, because everyone that was part of that deal is still part of that deal except for us. We're the only ones honoring our commitments, and now people are actually saying you can tell how screwed up the U.S. is, because when you have an agreement with another country, why the hell would you rip it up and then expect to be taken seriously again? Like this actually, and I was trying to explain that I've never seen or read under any of these different presidents all these different agreements getting just torn to shreds, and like how I'm very much convinced this is going to destroy the reputation of the U.S. forever, like on the world stage. Because who the hell is going to want to sign an agreement with a country where every single time the other party wins the White House, they just get rid of it the next day, or they go out of their way to just remove it or yank it? I said that's stupid. Like people don't would not get understand the point of doing that at this point. Okay, Walking Paradox says, I don't see why the US government acts so surprised when other countries act out of self defense. Well, you remember what we did to Canada, right? We put tariffs on them for no reason. And then Canada, the prime minister, was it Trudeau? How do you pronounce his name? It's like, okay, well, they just slapped these tariffs on us. So we're going to have to come and put some, retaliatory ones on there out of defense. And then all these different Republican lawmakers and office holders and clowns went on TV talking about Canada betrayed its U.S. ally, and they've done us so wrong with these new tariffs. I'm like, how do you react to the second part and then pretend the first one didn't even happen? And Elliot's saying money, right? Yeah, that's it. All of this stuff is tied to cash. APAC, it's the reason why so many of these different politicians in both parties love the Israeli government more than they love the U.S. government. Um, there's a lot of different groups that work. I'm not going to. I can't remember the names of it at this moment, but you get the point that it's tied to this and the fact that Iran historically has been enemies with Israel. Like those two governments don't like each other, the people or whatever. So if we're bootlicking for Israel, we're going to be against Iran automatically. It's like if what's another good example? I'm trying to have some country, let's say some country that is not a top ally of the US and has like no history of relations with the US starts feuding with Saudi Arabia. Actually, no, I wouldn't even need to do that. Look what's going on in Yemen. That whole genocide that's killed over 85,000 people was that again like more than, I think it's like 20 times, 30, 40 times more than 9/11 altogether. That conflict was started by Saudi Arabia's friendly government, or a government that Saudi Arabia was friends with, getting toppled by the Houthi rebels. And Saudi Arabia getting pissed off and getting its foreign buddies that really should have nothing to do with whether some country has its own people take over its own government, getting involved over there. We're getting kind of a sort of similar thing in Venezuela, but not really. Like it's bad that we're trying to do regime change, but no, at least no, we're not over there actively bombing at this point. So that's the I guess the one silver lining of that conflict. But yeah, Elliot, going back to what you to the money comment, I wish you would type something else. I'm feeling so lonely in my comment section. Trump also had a deal with Saudi Arabia where he had some, I think it was like some properties, and this is why he supports this literal genocide in Yemen. And I've actually had a couple of his supporters who, I mean, you know how they are, man. I show them an article, they tell me it's not true. It's manipulation and all. Like, man, so I don't take him seriously anymore. I just found out that people actually will allow thousands of people to die because they're that stupid. Like, I've had a couple of them actually try to say, "Oh, well, Obama started that," and then think that because I say Trump is stupid for continuing it, I have some kind of like non-recollection of when the conflict began. It's I actually think, who was president in 2015? Like that's them. They actually think that they're getting some kind of blind spot when when they bring him up. I admit I'm ignorant when it comes to politics, but do the U.S. Gov pay tribute to the deaths over in Yemen? No, we just keep bombing and continue on. Like I said, that whole conflict started because a government that was friends with a government we're friends with was toppled by citizens of that country, and ever since then they've had a blockade that stops food and medicine from going in. And really think of how stupid this is. They want to sell to you, and I know I'm getting like off topic. It's supposed to be about Iran, but they want to sell to you this idea that they're fighting these terrorists in this country when no individuals organized from Yemen have ever participated in any kind of terrorism toward the U.S. Secondly, they've been confirmed to bomb hospitals, mosques, markets, daycare centers, like, and all these different places where you don't have to be a rocket science to figure out they're not really going after, any of these supposed dangerous individuals. So it's just them getting an excuse to be evil and cause as much carnage and death as possible. And like I said, when I look at a picture of either of the last two American presidents, I just think of that conflict. Like that's how I almost want to warn you, Elliot, that if it's almost a blessing in disguise that you don't care that much about this stuff, or you're not like into it that much, or how I say the term, you're not really. It's not something that you wake up and think about, because when you just sit there and ponder about stuff, you're like, why the hell do we have all these thousands and thousands of deaths, and then we're just expected to like not be pissed off at the people who ordered that? And like I've actually seen like their supporters, when they try to argue against this, I'll just like send them a picture. I'll go, hey, look, I don't want to hear it. But there people don't care. And that's why I have nothing to do with them. There was a time when I used to say, I'll be nice to a walking paradox says hell no. I know he's saying hell no to. But there was a time when I used to talk to people that were Trump supporters that talked about how much they liked Obama, and now I don't, because every single time they try to figure out why I have a problem with either of them, they'll actually like act really stupid when you bring up this conflict. Like they actually want you to just pretend these people did not start the genocide. Like there's no getting around that. And again, it's not because everyone over there, like it'd be different if like let's say if we did this to Iran, right? If every single person in that country, let's say 98% of them were found to have some kind of terrorist link or have done something to the US, it's still, I'd rather not, just out of humanity, but it would make a lot more sense, because you're actually going after people who did something to you, did nothing to us. It's a literal case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And now we've had thousands of them die from starvation and getting bombed to death. It's not my field. No one's there. Nothing I can do. But that's the point. But if it was, or if it was something that you just actively thought about, it would piss you off, because, you're not a sociopath, so you don't really like the idea of innocent people get blown to pieces day after day, month after month, year after year, just because they happen to live in a particular country. So it's just really frustrating. And we've actually had polls done in Britain where because they're also, well, it might change, but currently they're another supporter of that genocide. We've actually had polls over there where it's only like, I think 30% of the people that know that that's going on. Like it's some really huge number that have no clue. I had a bad day yesterday as well, so I wasn't bothered about not getting a video then also. How you doing, Ruben? Yeah, man, that thing yesterday pissed me off, because it's like, people understand your routine and then they like blow it up. Like they have no care or concern for your own. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the narcissism thing. Oh, cater to my needs and my wants, and let me, act like yours don't exist. Really strange behaviors that people indulge in, and I don't quite comprehend them. Also, I would have done the stream earlier, Ruben, but I fell asleep. So that's the reason it was delayed up until now. Imagine Elliot goes in the comment section. He's like, "Hey, I want a refund. I came here for Iran. I didn't want 8 minutes of Yemen." It's a lot harder to talk about Iran, because it's literally just we signed an agreement with them and then we pulled out because a new party took the White House, and then we've spent the last year fear mongering about them while everybody else is still just in the agreement. People disgust me half the time. Yeah, I mean, like, look at the politicians they support, and then I've actually had people who like let's say Obama, right? And they're like, okay, I don't agree with that. Like, look, but this isn't just about disagreeing with someone's approach to healthcare, or maybe they weren't nice to this foreign minister. We're talking about a literal genocide. Like, I just sat back and I was like, like, if you hate Reagan for completely ignoring like the HIV crisis and whatnot, then you should absolutely despise Obama for being the originator of this genocide. Like, I'm just saying that that's why when I sit here and I read these articles by people where they're like, Trump has done this Republican president did this. Like, I remember when the older Bush died, like what, 7 months ago, and I was reading all these stupid articles about how horrible the things he was doing were, and you know, he all the incarcerations. I'm like, you guys you're pretending, and it's all this grandstanding. Oh, we care so much that people are in jail, but then when people get blown to pieces in these foreign countries, we wouldn't even bat an eye. Like, you can't be both of those things at the same time and have me think you're serious about human rights and whatnot. Like, at least when what's her name, the lady on Twitter, the one I've mentioned before, Jennifer. At least when she talked about the how much she didn't like the older Bush, at the very least, that's coming from a person who, no matter what the social ill is, she's not selective. Like, she doesn't care if it's happening overseas. Like, I saw so many commentators who've kept their mouths shut about that genocide for literal years, even when it was up in the Senate, like when it was getting a little bit of media coverage from being something people were voting on, just completely shut their mouths. It was crazy. No, normies love Obama, and most people who actually follow current events hate Obama. Apart from paid shills, yeah, because they don't have they're paid off to not actually care about anyone but themselves. That's why you have that stupid Starbucks founder going around talking about, I think I can run for president. I'll run if the progressive doesn't get nominated by the Democrats. The same how he sounds. I don't know why I did that voice. But I like how he apparently only has like a 4% approval rating. Okay, Envoy says, what are we talking about? Come on, you see the title, you know what it is. I'm just going from different country to different country. I'm like this this verbal hoe. So that's what is being discussed. I really like, it's hard to just kind of sit back and not get pissed over that particular, and I keep trying to explain to people, I don't care if they drop a bomb somewhere. I don't care if, like, the rationale with that is it makes a lot of sense for them to do stuff that like lets people, a couple hundred people, a couple thousand people die in different countries. Like, that's just something that these different presidents do. It is what it is. But again, I can go through down the list of the predecessors of these last two, and I'm sorry, I'm always going to have a higher opinion of them for the simple fact that they didn't start a genocide. It is what it is. Well, except maybe the younger Bush, but that's a whole other. I mean, like, dude, I would never have thought when he was in office that I would literally still be living in under his like policies and everything, even after having a Democrat. Like, how the hell is the Patriot Act even still a thing? Oh, I know why, because people don't care. They don't mind the surveillance state. They don't mind the government being able to get a copy of all of your emails. They're fine with that. Or they don't know about it. One of those two. Probably the latter. See if I can find anything else on. I could have sworn there was some other thing that happened where it was like there was some group in Iran that Trump designated as a terrorist group, and that was supposedly unprecedented. Let me see. I'm looking for it. Go on this list. I know this is where it gets boring because I'm not speaking at the moment. I'm trying to find this little thing so I can include it here. All right, here it is. In April of 2019, the Trump administration designated Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a foreign terrorist group. But there was some kind of significance to that. I'm trying to remember. Like, there was a reason why that was a big deal. It had something to do with like it being unprecedented. Okay, I only know one person into politics that liked Obama, and he told me it's because he is praised, past. He acknowledged that why people like me hate him, and he himself also knows over establishment Democrats. Yeah, again, like, I, even as someone that's not a fan of his, and I've actually had to explain this before. I can probably name more things he did that I like than people who like these supposed casual people that love him so much. Like, you know, I've spoken to plenty of people who didn't even know what the Iran deal was, or the restoration of relations with Cuba. Um, what else? They or the what's another good thing that happened, or some other thing of decent. I think it's just those two really, but I can still name more policies than they can, like just individual things. It was like, hey, you guys are over here talking about all these journalists that you think he's gonna put behind bars, referring to Trump. Well, you know who passed, who used the Espionage Act to jail journalists 6 times, right? Not Trump, his immediate predecessor. Let's see. As someone who used to be passionate, what is this? Walking paradox. What are you talking about? What is? I don't understand. I'm confused. All right, I guess you and we're gonna have a conversation. I'll just talk to Ruben and the eventual viewers of the stream. I'll just we'll just have it split sideways or in half. It's gonna be like an episode of a TV show where they have the main plot and the B plot and then the C plot. So the main plot is me talking about these different countries that the U.S. is screwing with, and then the B plot is the two of you talking about chick stuff, and then the C plot is going to be someone else coming in here and talking about, I don't know, that new Dragon Ball movie that we know nothing about, that everyone's making a bunch of speculative videos on. Let's see, is saying that he used to be, yeah, but like what does that have to do with this? Like, that's why I'm confused. Like what what is the context of that? Like, where'd that come from? Because I didn't talk about it. Me neither, Ruben. I'm confused as well. Just sitting over. I've got the remember in those cartoons where someone's confused, they have the chickens running across them. That's me when I see that comment. Okay, Elliot says, I watched not long ago in the bombing of Hiroshima where Obama attempted apologizing or something. I'm thinking now that means nothing as he's caused a lot of problems. No, man, look, I still to this day, because Truman is one of my favorite presidents, like I'd say probably in the top 5 or 3. And I to this day have people who go, how can you reconcile him dropping the bomb? Like, well, first of all, killed less people than a war would have, but whatever. So, secondly, a lot of his successors who did not drop a bomb still cause multiple casualties. So when I see, like all these little stupid conservative commentators, and I do remember when that happened, like having people get mad at Obama for apologizing, like I just want to vomit because what sort of warped reality do you live in where you think he's this like peaceful, afraid to do anything person. Like it's almost like if you took the attacks that McCain would make of him from 2008 and you just like stayed in that era, like that year, and nothing progressed. Like, this is the same person who pulled out of Iraq just to go right back 3 years later. This is the same person who, like we said before in the stream, started a genocide. And this is like actually the Hiroshima thing, if I remember correctly, was the year after that conflict started, that genocide started. So, that was already a thing. And these idiots were still going around. He's too weak-kneed. He doesn't stand up for the U.S. against these like idiots. He's bombing 7 places. What more strength do you want? Like, it's just so dumb, man. Sometimes I feel like Walking Paradox doesn't even know what stream he's on. We'll just come in here and take everything over. I guess my topics aren't good enough for him. But yeah, man, that Hiroshima apology, the whole conservative commentator world was losing their minds over it, including Trump's current national security advisor. I remember there's a TYT video of them like reacting to his comments about when he was a Fox commentator. Obama, like saying, "Oh, we shouldn't have done this, or this was a deadly travesty and whatnot." And I didn't have a problem with that comment because it was, but I'm not going to pretend like the alternative was so great and wonderful like people like to do retroactively. You'll find out when you pay attention to this stuff long enough, or just like look at a lot of the criticisms of past presidents, that people are very like like sometimey in their rebukes and rebuttals. Like, the same people who will berate someone like Johnson for being in Vietnam for years are the same ones who will give all of his success, especially the more recent ones that they either they bootlick for, or whatever, that they experienced firsthand. They don't have a problem with this stuff. Like, they actually act like it doesn't exist. So it is what it is. Our walking paradox is laughing at me because he's a high school bully. I feel so insulted and rebuked and whatnot. A lot of Trump supporters hate McCain because he was a never Trumper, but support most of his economic views and ignore that Trump is continuing most of his foreign policy views. Yeah, frat boy, Elliot. But respond to what Ruben wrote. Literally, look, this was the same thing with Flake. Remember that senator from Arizona, the one that would give those little stupid like anti-Trump comments, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's part of the resistance." A dude who votes with Trump over 70% of the time. I think it was over 80% actually, and he's the resistance. Like, I'm telling you, the only, like, out of all these different Republicans currently, the only three that are in the Senate that are worth a damn are Rand Paul, because he still will oppose Trump on these wars, and like try to make a deal with him, which does nothing because he gets overridden. But like, him, and then maybe Collins and Murkowski, and that's about it. All the other ones are just bootlickers. That must be a really, like, Elliot, imagine being a senator for 30 or 40 years, like McConnell or McCain or Grassley, and then like this guy wins the White House, and now you just spend like the next 4 to 8 years, depending on if he gets reelected, just sitting back, agreeing with every single thing he does, and going, yep, 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 yep. Like, I don't even think I could fill a piece of paper in font, no, like a document in font 58 or whatever, with the amount of times that any of the Republicans that weren't those three I mentioned, like, actually broke with him. Like, I remember McConnell was like, no, I'm not going to endorse Roy Moore anymore. And then Grassley said that Trump was stupid because he said that the noise of windmills caused cancer. And some people won't believe he said that, but he did. Like, that's how like, it's bad if his own people are like, yeah, no, no, no. Oh my God. They weren't having that. The assistants. That comment probably is the dumbest thing he said, like, in his whole tenure, in my opinion. Like, I almost thought I was on some kind of parody article when I read that. Because there are people that write parody articles, but they state this as satire. Like, you can actually say this. Like, no, that's real. It's like, wow. I know this is random and off topic, but I watch documentaries about there being other governments above the White House. Oh, here we go. Secret black ops stuff. Yeah. Illuminati and whatnot. Man, I look at that stuff and I just ball up and throw it in the trash, man. Wasn't Governor Northam a Republican until recently? Yeah, he didn't become a Democrat until I think about 4 or 5 years ago. Like, it was within the last decade. I remember because I read that on one of the articles about him, where they were talking about how the Republicans were mocking him for having that stupid picture. But then, like, he was part of your party for all those decades. Let's see, what's not the noises of traffic causes what's next? The noises of traffic cause autism. Man, I'm just waiting for that to be the successor of that comment. Like, I still can't believe he said that. I'm not saying that as like, oh, I refuse to believe. No, I believe that it was said by him. It's just, what, whatever, man. I don't even, after all the stuff that's been done over the last 2 years, like to me on a personal level, and then like in the news, I really shouldn't even be surprised by anything anymore. Like, it was weird to get blocked for saying hello to someone on that website. It was weird to have someone tell you to come in their server, that their drama-filled server, and then like get mad that you participate in the same stuff that the server is known for. So it all just goes together, man. I'm not even gonna react that much anymore. Let's see. The government above ours is called Israel. Oh, not wrong. Oh, you know what? Damn it! I wish I could use that because that's true. But I can't be like, no, you know what the real Illuminati is Israel, because then they're going to do that thing of, well, you're anti-Semitic. It's like, no, I'm talking about the Israeli government. No, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, you mean it? It's really weird because I think there are way more people who actually don't support from let's see, got get blocked, join the club. Yeah. Imagine Elliot came on one of my videos like, hi, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm such a snowflake. I gotta get rid of him. That's what that guy did. But like I was saying, if you want to talk about a shadow government that is pulling the strings and the the wires and whatnot, that's the one. They are completely at the center stage of stuff, which is really disturbing when you think about it. Like, how the hell do people that we didn't even elect control what we do? And that's really kind of like a problem with just most of these. That's why I hate that Congress has just ceded power to these presidents, because most of us, actually all of us, participate in the elections of the various Congress people that represent us as far as where we live and the president. So to only have, like, okay, you have two senators, a representative, and the president, to only have 25% of what you vote for actually like control stuff. And then even at that point, not really. It's just stupid. Like, people say they don't vote. I don't blame them, man. There was a time when I would go, "Oh, you should vote," but I look at these candidates and they're just all singing the same song. Let's see. Oh no, you had an idea I disagree with. Throws the opposition into the pits of hell. Well, that's how they act, man. Like, I've said before, I really think Trump supporters have like, like, I watched a commentator like Kyle Kalinske, the guy that does Secular Talk, and he's actually convinced himself. I don't know who this person right here is. That's someone new. He's convinced himself that there's 50% of Republicans or Trump's, whatever term we used to call them, conservative leaning people who can be swayed. And I said, look, man, not to him, but just like, I've been on these websites, whether it's here or Twitter or anywhere else, and I've realized that no matter what rebuke or critique of him, no matter what way it's stated, no matter what it is, no matter how true you might, actually have it be, these people will get pissed because you're not bootlicking for the guy they like. Like, I've seen Sanders supporters who, when you talk about, like him not mentioning certain wars, they'll agree with that. I've seen Obama supporters, and me and them, I don't want anything to do with the person they like, but I've seen them admit to the genocide in that country. Like, so only with these particular fans do they get pissed and want to like have these back and forths. Like, I've seen so many like different text arguments on Twitter. I'm like, if you guys don't like each other, stop talking to each other. As simple as that. Like, he's so stupid. Why are you writing them 7 or 8 responses? Oh, people just love to argue. Like, they love it. And I've really never been a fan of these like back and forths. Like, I'd rather that when you have these politicians run for office, give them all like, maybe instead of a debate, like a 30-40 minute speech where they just outline all the different policies, and then you can decide from that point if you want to vote for them, in addition to them campaigning. Because I really don't think the format of the back and forths is that conducive to a conversation, especially when I go on these different cable networks and they're like, here are the top 5 best moments from the debate. It's like, yeah, but you guys are picking zingers that you think were witty, not what you think actually would, affect public policy. So it's all a bunch of, grandstanding and show offness and whatnot. Whew. I have to figure out if Ruben's tapped out, if he wants to cut it off at this point. I think I've pretty much said everything I need to say with logic and facts. Yeah, basically. You really can't talk to them like, and again, because everything that they don't like is fake news that, like, doesn't go along with their narrative. I can show them an article from CNN. I can show them an article from Fox, from The Hill, from, like, there's plenty of news sources out there. LA Times, NY Times. It doesn't matter. They're gonna say all of them are just printing these lies about Trump. Like, just because they're this place. They can tell the truth about everybody. I think I actually caught one of them not following their own creed, because I think it was CNN, they printed some article about Trump's approval rating going up, and the exact same Trump supporter who was sitting around saying CNN's a rag, they don't tell the truth, believed the article. Like, they didn't like mention anything about CNN in that moment. It was just, here's a news article, and they went, yay. So that should basically say to you, don't buy the front that they put up. The imagery, the hocus and pocus, the strings and wires. It's not conducive to an actual dialogue. But yeah, we're gonna have more conflict with Iran because the national security advisor of the U.S. is a piece of trash that wants to literally start a war with every single country he can. He has a speech, if I can find it, where he was like he wanted regime change. It's from 2 years ago, and it's before he became national security advisor. But he was saying he wanted regime change this year, like in Iran. Like, he wanted to go in there and kick out the supreme leader. And I'm like, how is no one in the media talking about that? Like, how is that speech not being resurfaced and going viral? We're talking about bombing a bunch of people and killing, all these individuals, and no one is offended by that. I saw many right wing people hate Washington Post because of how they talk about Trump, but still use it as a source against AOC. That's what I'm saying, man. The source is only good when it goes with my narrative. When it doesn't go with my narrative, throw you out. You're garbage. You're non-reliable. That's how they operate. Okay, conservatives are massive hypocrites. They lack so much self-awareness that it's comedy gold. Well, again, that's why I don't take them seriously. Like, I don't talk to any of them anymore. I don't. Most people I don't interact with about the political stuff, because every time I do, it just seems like you're taking individuals who will sit here and gas you up, especially if you know them like personally or if you've talked to them before, and then they still go right back to the same stupid stuff. Like, that guy that was that admin on that site, all before I mentioned the Venezuela regime change that the U.S. was trying to execute, he would say that I knew what I was talking about when it came to all these different countries, when I would tell him about U.S. history. And only when I say, hey, look, man, you are supporting a foreign coup if you back getting rid of Maduro by the U.S. government, these other countries, he didn't agree, and he was like, oh, Maduro's bad. Like, does that suddenly make the U.S. and these other countries good? Do they have noble intentions? Are they now not going to bomb the same country that you claim you care about so damn much? So, it's just stuff like that where, oh, yes, you are very smart about this, which is why I will not take your position seriously. Double speak. But yeah, thank you for participating. I hope you guys liked it. I don't think I'll do a stream tomorrow. I'll definitely upload some tomorrow. I can hope to get 5 views, and I'll we'll continue on from that point. And if you are on Twitter, you can catch me tweeting at all the different characters that are on there. But whatever. So thank you for have a good day, and I appreciate the attendance.